So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world right now. And the older I get, the more I've been thinking, I don't really relate a lot to a lot of the structures that we have in society now. There's a lot of our government institutions don't really serve us anymore, and a lot of issues. There's woodpeckers everywhere. And lately I've been thinking, what if I just dropped out of society completely and then built a brand new society inside my mind and on this YouTube channel? We can't build any more houses around because there's no space. So lately I've been spending a lot of time browsing around on Google Earth looking for a new place to, build a new society. Like a place on the map that maybe nobody discovered beforehand. And then we could just go there and we could build a brand new society. And I think I found a place. There's this giant island way up in northern Canada called Axel Heiberg. And it's this giant island. It has a population of literally 0. And it's bigger than the country of Denmark. So, I was thinking like, maybe we could all just go there and we could build a brand new society. And, if we just like sneak up there and we're really polite about it, then maybe, the government won't notice. We could just start a new country up there. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we could just like send a few stealth villagers up there, and then we could just build like a town center on it, and then hope that nobody notices. And we could start like making some barracks and stuff up there. And yeah, I think it's a good plan. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. I came to this totally random place in the middle of the forest to make my video, and then a random person just came up and started foraging over there. Rudely interrupted me. So we're coming up on almost 6 months now since I published my viral How to Become a 37-Year-Old Broke Loser. And I've received a few messages from random people over the last few months. And I have to say, I think some of you people on the internet out there are a bit more worried about me than you have to be. Some of the other people in the building that I live in are even worse off than I am. And I get the vibe sometimes that some of you are concerned for my mental health, but I just want to assure you that my mental health is fantastic. In fact, I'm probably the world's most mentally healthy person. So to update you on my dental work, I got my root canal and my teeth are all fixed up, and that's all completely paid for. And as of today, all of my debt is paid off, and I have over $1,000 in my bank account. So I'm basically a rich person now. So I owe a huge thanks to everyone who supported me, and that really gave me a much needed boost. And thanks to the extra little bit of cash that I had, I was able to buy a second microphone and a second camera. So that's going to make it a lot easier for me to switch between doing streaming and going out and recording stuff like this. So that way I don't have to tear down my streaming setup every single time. And now, having said that, the revenue has been trending down the last few months. I have not been publishing a huge number of videos. The last video I published on immigration, that one was almost 2 months of work that I put into that. That was a really difficult topic to cover. I spent quite a long time on the script. It was almost a month that I spent working on the script for that video. It's a really hard topic to cover, and I think that's why no one wants to cover it in a really good way. And I thought, since I actually have some industry experience, I might as well be the one to take the time to put this out there. So for an update on the rent eviction situation, so if I go back to the update from the How to Become a 37-Year-Old Broke Loser video, in that video I said that my N13 merits eviction hearing, which is a hearing at the tenant board to discuss the merits of whether it's actually necessary to evict the tenant in order to complete the proposed extensive renovations. So that was originally scheduled for February 19th, 2025. At the start of January, I got a notice from the tenant board saying that was canceled. The February 19th hearing was canceled, and instead they were going to pull me into a case management hearing on the 27th. Now, the February 19th hearing, that was going to be just me versus the landlord. But because there's a whole bunch of other people in the building who are all being evicted together, they all get the same N13 eviction notice. 661 of these have been issued in my building. The tenant board said, hey, why don't we combine all these cases together? And so that was the 27th. But that also made it really difficult because the original evidence I was planning to prepare to present in February, I had to scramble to get all that together because I learned that there was a possibility they could adjudicate on some things, so they could make legal decisions that would affect the outcome of any subsequent hearings. And I had no idea what to expect. And it was annoying because when I found out about that, there was still I wanted to get an expert witness, and everyone was still on vacation at that point. I emailed some people and they're all out of office notification or whatever. So I attended the 27th case management hearing, and so the conclusion for that was that the hearings will be held together. And so now we have another, the actual real N13 merits hearing is going to be May 26th. Now, from what I understand, I think a lot of those 61 people have already like dropped off and just like left the building because they don't want to deal with all this stuff. So for May 26th, I have to get prepared for the next N13 merits hearing. Honestly, I have no idea what they're going to decide. You know, when you just hear about this kind of from the outside, it's difficult to convey how disruptive it is because, so right now we're currently in April and the next hearing is going to be May 26th. And the next hearing is almost exactly a month away. So I got to, go back and forth with a lawyer and prepare some evidence and stuff. And then, so after May 26th, I have no idea how long the tenant board is going to take to make their decision. So it could be, I don't know, 1 or 2 weeks or something. Maybe it's going to be more than that. It'll be up in there for a long time. And then once they make the decision, let's say they decide to actually issue the eviction order, I have no idea how much time that is. So for anyone who actually is like a responsible person who, has to plan things, if you're planning your vacations or you got like business trips or something like that, I mean, you can't have this hanging over your head, having this eviction hearing and then not knowing when you're going to get this decision. And then possibly have to like move. Because I did some research on someone else who actually did get, who did lose their N13. I think it was because they didn't show up. And the eviction order that they issued, the tenant board issued, it was a little bit less than 2 weeks or something to get all their stuff out. And I think technically you have like, once if they change the locks, you get like 48 hours and stuff. But so yeah, no idea what will happen after the 27th. I kind of suspect what will happen is they will probably say the N13s as issued are probably like not valid because they just did like one building permit for the entire building. And they didn't really like even look at our apartments or anything to look for any necessary renovations. Now technically they kind of already won because a lot of people have already left the building even with just this threat of uncertainty. So I kind of think the tenant board will. I'm kind of expecting them to say like you need to get like more permits. So they'll probably like strike this one down. And then probably like in the fall or something, they'll just come and like individually pick people off and say like, oh, this or that needs to be repaired in your apartment, so we need to renovate for that. And it'll just be this kind of war of attrition where slowly everyone is eventually removed, and it gets whittled down to like 1 or 2 people that, if they have 1 or 2 stragglers, then they still won financially. Now, in terms of future content production, so I've been thinking about the goals of the content that I'm producing. And my original goals are to be educational, informative, and historically I had been thinking that maybe the YouTube videos would be like an on-ramp to maybe getting some consulting work, but over time it seems like that doesn't really exist. So, and my natural tendency is to try and veer back to being a bit more professional, but now over time that's kind of changed because there's really no advantage to being professional in YouTube videos. And in fact, it's kind of more the opposite. So the more unhinged you are, the better the YouTube video will be. So I'm going to try to be a bit more unhinged in future videos. I know that the internet likes that. So now on the topic of society falling apart, I have this report here called Future Lives, Social Mobility in Question. And it's, I guess, from a think tank called Policy Horizons. It came out a few days ago and there were some articles about it. So this report is supposed to be a vision of the future of what things will look like in Canada in 2040. It says, more snakes than ladders. Owning a home is not a realistic goal for many. I mean, that's already the case. In 2040, people rarely mix with others of different socioeconomic status. The Canadian economy could shrink or become less predictable. People's mental health may suffer. It says, people may start to hunt, fish, and forage on public lands and waterways without reference to regulations. Small-scale agriculture could increase. And I find that actually interesting, because the person who's making noise over there right now is doing exactly that. They're foraging on public lands for food. So yeah, I brought this report here to maybe mock it a little bit, but I don't know. Maybe this is already reality. I mean, it's kind of a weird report. Like, there's no graphs in it. There's no like tables or anything. It doesn't read like a real report you'd pay money for. I mean, it has like 6 citations at the end. It looks like it's written by like a middle school student or something. So on one hand, this report is getting like a lot of media attention. People are like, oh man, Canada's going to collapse. But like, you could criticize the report and say like, how realistic is this? Like, it's not a very, it looks like something that like AI could do a better job of making this report. So you could say, oh, that's the counter narrative. But the counter narrative is that our tax dollars are paying for this. So if our tax dollars are paying to create reports like this, then, maybe things really are that bad. So there's a few other things that I forgot to say in this video, but I kept getting distracted by those foragers who were nearby talking loudly. Unfortunately, they showed up just after I started recording, but by the time they left, my battery had almost died, so this was all I was able to get recorded. I picked what I had originally thought was a fairly secluded location in the middle of a creek bed, like 200 feet away from the trail, but I guess this is a prime area for foraging. The original idea for this video was to just kind of freestyle it and go off script, and then take some of the later cuts since they would probably be better quality once my voice and mind had warmed up. But in the end, I think this video actually ended up being so terrible it's actually kind of good. One of the other main things that I forgot to mention in the video is at this point I kind of don't actually really care about getting evicted anymore. I have actually thought before about just packing up and leaving this place, but the ultimate question is, where would I go? I definitely can move back home with my parents for a bit, since I do have a good relationship with them. But as of right now, I live in a totally different province, so it'd be quite a bit of work to move. So at this point, I'll probably just stay around here and see what happens. If I do eventually get evicted, I'll probably just take that as the cue to fully move back home and save the $2,000 a month that I would be putting into a market rate apartment here in Ontario. Now, to be fair to the foragers, I don't think that they were actually foraging out of necessity. I passed them by again on my way out of the park, and it looked like a group of senior citizens. At first I thought they were picking fiddleheads or something, because I think we're in the season for that now, but when I got closer to them, it looked like they were picking some kind of leafy green or something. I have no idea what they were actually collecting.